It's time to get the engine from my Chevy Caprice PPV back in and running, and even though it's been a couple of weeks and I've put out some other videos, that doesn't mean I haven't been working on the car. Like many YouTubers, we get a little carried away with buying broken cars, and with my full-time job, it just takes me a little bit longer to finish projects. Anyway, in the last video, we installed the cylinder heads, a gigantic camshaft, and we left off at rebuilding the rocker arms with the upgraded trunnion kit, and so after installing all of the push rods, I installed all of the rocker arms, making sure the offset rockers went on the intake valves and the straight rockers were paired with the exhaust valves. After torquing them all down, I used my 100-year-old oil can and pre-lubricated everything. I installed the new valley cover that deletes the active fuel management solenoids, and then I went back in my house and poured another fresh cup of cold brew coffee, because that's my secret. That's how I can own 10 older broken cars, have a family, and work a full-time job. I love coffee, and this time I'm drinking the Amsterdam blend over ice. Now, I get my coffee delivered to my house by Trade Coffee, so I just go online and take their short quiz. They match me up with a few different brews that fit. I pick the quantity, the delivery frequency, and whole beans or ground, and my coffee gets delivered fresh from the nation's top roasters. With hundreds of different types of coffees for every type of brewing, you'll never stop discovering, and you can rate each type so that Trade always sends you out the coffee you love. Dark chocolate, walnut, molasses. I brew this cold, and I simply just add a little bit of cream. I don't even add any sugar. This stuff is so flavorful. They have so many different kinds, and there's no reason to go to those expensive coffee shops anymore. If you like coffee, you're gonna love Trade. So to get started today, simply click on my link in the video description box. This is gonna get you 30% off your first bag, and shipping is free. Big thanks to Trade for sponsoring this video. Now let's get to work on the Caprice. Please have oil pressure. Please have oil pressure. Come on, baby. Okay, it's gonna take a while at this speed. Let's boost this. And here's my setup: an old AC Delco battery that's pretty much dying, and a jump pack. And let's try this again. Much better. Look at the speed. Oh yeah. 40 PSI, that's fantastic. Let's see if we can see any oil coming out yet. There it is, oil coming out of the push rod there, dripping down. We are good to go. All right, so the way I did this was I ran a jumper wire from the solenoid to the main power lug right there. And then we have that connected to our little starter button setup and our battery. It's just power and ground. These are really nice to check if your starter is faulty, to check for oil pressure, to see if your valve train's moving around properly. Looking good. So I'll leave a link to this down below in the description box. And something else that is new since the last video would be the headers. So if you remember, we were having issues with the Speed Engineering Camaro SS headers. Not the fault of the headers. These are for a Camaro SS. They're not for a Caprice. So I knew that they weren't going to fit properly. But I just determined I didn't want to do that many modifications to make them fit. I would have had to pretty much strap these transcooler lines down into an unnatural position or cut them and relocate them. There would have been a lot of denting and cutting. It was just a kind of a mess for me. So I ponied up for the Cook's headers. So these are specifically made for this vehicle. Everything is supposed to clear, and they look absolutely gorgeous. So I got the headers and an entire exhaust system from Solo Performance, which we're going to be unboxing. This is meant to connect directly to these Cook's headers and go all the way back, all the way to the tailpipes, which I actually had them not include tailpipes on purpose. I'm going to cut the factory police tailpipes off because I want this thing to look like a cop car. All right, so at this point, I'm just going to go to town putting everything back together. We have our intake manifold sitting somewhere over there. We have a few other accessories and miscellaneous parts valve cover gaskets and whatnot. So I'm gonna go ahead and assemble the entire engine. It already has its oil in it, and then we are lowering the Caprice right onto this completed power unit, and we're gonna start it up. Well, it's been a long time coming for me, about a month of slowly putting this together. I am very excited to get my garage spot back. Actually, 2 garage spots. I have cars sitting outside that shouldn't be, but I've been working on this on and off in between other projects and videos and life and work and all that good stuff. But she is 100% complete. Every single gasket and seal has been replaced. We have our England Green Mayhem 3 camshaft, our Cook's long tube headers, our Circle D multi-disc torque converter. It's a 3800 stall. And then I like to just go on Amazon and I pick up these factory AC Delco high performance spark plug wires, and I'm running an NGK TR6, so 1-step colder spark plug. They sell these as a kit on Amazon, I think for like 50, 60 bucks. It's the best deal in town. And what I like about running AC Delco, just factory spark plug wires, is that they click onto the spark plug really nicely. I've run into issues with aftermarket ones where they loosen up and whatnot, but everything is wrapped up. This is what she looks like. The Cook's headers fit perfectly. We are totally clearing, you can't see it, but we're clearing the oil cooler down there. We are clearing the factory transcooler lines right here. I wrapped a little section just to reduce the heat being transferred to the transcooler lines because they're about a ½ inch away, so not too horrible. And that's about it. We have engine oil in here. You guys saw we have good oil pressure. Everything is sealed up. And now it's just a matter of lowering this body onto this, what I like to call the power unit. Well, I finally have one of my garage spots back. The E55 wagon has been sitting outside for like 3 or 4 days. It's horrible. But before we pull that in, I have a lot of cleaning up to do so nothing drips on the wagon. But I must say, overall, dropping the entire cradle with the engine and transmission is the way to go if you're doing a converter and a camshaft. It was so nice to be able to just simply walk around everything. All right, guys, so I zipped over to Speed Inc. in Schaumburg. They are gonna be tuning the Caprice, and Jim is installing a base file right now
to the engine's computer because it wouldn't exactly run right with the DOD deleted mechanically but not in the tune. So nothing really too exciting here. Jim has a bunch of tunes since he's been doing this for what, like 20 years? 20 years? A little bit of LS experience. So I gave Jim the cam specs, the converter specs. It has the factory fuel system. And this is just a base map so I can drive it about the 25 miles from my house to Speed Inc. Drive it around, make sure there's no leaking coolant, change the oil, whatnot. So anyway, we're almost there and I'm out of here. All right, so I'm back with the computer. Got to reinstall that. Hook up a couple of coolant hoses right there. A fuel line, some miscellaneous hoses, a steering shaft and whatnot, and we're ready to fire this thing up. So this is kind of nice. No more jack stands on the ground. So let me wrap up this little stuff and we're gonna get right into its first start with open headers. Insane. This thing fired right up. I primed the fuel pump a couple of times and that's the first start. You guys saw it right there. We already checked the oil pressure. There's no gauge in the cluster, which is kind of weird. But when I have HB tuners hooked up and probably one of my better scanners, I could probably see oil pressure. So I'll double check that. But it runs really nicely for being a first startup. No hiccups, no dying out, no nothing. That base tune from Speed Inc. worked. There's no lights on the dash yet. We don't have rear O2s plugged in and we are going to be running cats. But I'm going to look everything over, make sure we don't have any leaks, and then I got to show you the new exhaust. Oh, and a ram air intake. I've let it run for about 15-20 minutes. We've gotten it warm. I've let it cool down now, and everything seems to be in good order so far. We don't have any leaks, oil leaks, coolant leaks, nothing. Everything seems set. So let me show you guys the exhaust. This is from Solo Performance, and it is a direct bolt-on kit for the Chevy Caprice, and it's meant to mate up to the long tube Cook's headers, which is another big reason why I just went with these, because now I can bolt up this entire system. And I did get catalytic converters as well. I try to run high flow cats on pretty much all of my cars whenever possible. I don't think you really lose much, and it doesn't smell as bad. It's good for the environment, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, here we go. Solo Performance exhaust. So this is getting installed in the very beginning of the next video, and this is some high quality stuff right here. And check this out. I'll go over all the features in the next video, but look at these little cap tube thingies right here. So this is going to be in the back towards the rear of the vehicle. and I'll go over all the details, but this is going to make for a very unique sound. There are 2 of these. Then we have, I believe this is a resonator in the middle to reduce drone, but super, super high quality. And then we're really going to be able to hear this thing right now. It's just kind of a crazy loud mess. So the very beginning of the next video, we're installing that exhaust. We're also going to be installing this OTR intake system. So this is a ram air intake system. Really, really excited for this. Check this out. This is going to be the front there instead of having that tube with the silencer and all that kind of garbage. So very excited about the OTR intake. And right now I have a lot of cleaning to do. I got to clean up this gigantic mess, wrap up little odds and ends like our flex disc. That's important. You know, so the rear wheels will move. I have the bumper to put on, the air conditioning stuff to put on. I'm putting the little rammer bar. It's not that heavy. I think it looks cool in a cop car. And that is it. That'll do it for today's video. Make sure to follow me on Facebook and on Instagram at LegitStreetCars. Also, check out my Patreon link down below. You guys can join the LegitStreetCars Patreon community where I post behind the scenes footage. You're also gonna get a sneak peek at car and truck reveals way before they make it on YouTube. So I have a Whipple supercharged truck that I posted up there about a week ago. There's a twin turbo car that I posted about. I tell you guys when I'm going to look at cars. I answer questions. It starts at only $2 a month. I'm always on there. It's a lot of fun and it supports the channel. Definitely make sure to check out Trade Coffee down below. It's delicious. You'll love it. Like the video, share the video, subscribe if you're new, and most importantly, have a fantastic day. I'll catch all of you in the next video.